Yep. Told you I got some Black History. Yep. I told you I got some Black History Month content. And we're about to talk about one of our legends, W.E.B. Du Bois. Williams Edward Bugbert Du Bois was born February 23rd, 1868, August. And he died August 27th, 1963. He was an American sociologist, historian, civil rights activist, Pan Africanist, author, writer, and editor. Born in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, Du Bois grew up in a relatively tolerant and integrated community, and after completing graduate work at the University of Berlin and Harvard, where he was the first African American to earn a doctorate, he became a professor of history, sociology, and economics at Atlanta University. Du Bois was one of the founders of the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, in 1909. Born William Edward Berkeley Du Bois, in February 23rd, 1868, in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, U.S. Of course, he died on August 27th, 1963, at the age of 95. In Accra, Ghana, citizenship, United States, 1868 to 1963. Ghana, 1961 to 1962 to 1963. Education, Fisk University, Harvard University, University of Berlin, known for the souls of black folk. Black Reconstruction in America, The Crisis, Spouses, Gina Gama, born 1896, died 1950. Lola Shirley Graham Jr., he married her in 1951. Children, two including Yolande. Awards, Springen Medal 1920, Lenin Peace Prize 1959. Scientific career, fields, civil rights, sociology, history, institutions, Atlanta University, NAACP. Diaz, the suppressant of African slave trade to the United States of America, 1638, 1870, 1896. Doctoral advisor, Albert Bushell Hart. Influences, Alexander Crummell, William James. Earlier, Du Bois had risen to national prominence as a leader of the Nigeria movement. Yeah, a group of African American activists who wanted equal rights for blacks. Du Bois and his supporters opposed the Atlanta Compromise. Based in the Nigerian movement was a group of African people and activists who wanted equal rights for blacks, of course. Make sure y'all heard that. I feel like I didn't hear that because I didn't have my mic there. But yeah, the support, see, an agreement crafted by Booker T. Washington, which provided that Southern blacks would work and submit to white political rule, while Southern whites guaranteed the blacks would receive basic educational and economic opportunities. Instead, Du Bois insisted on full civil rights and increased political reparations, which he believed would be brought about by the African American, which he believed would be brought about by the African American and intellectual elite. He referred to this group as the Talented Tenth, a concept under the umbrella of racial uplift, and believed that African Americans needed the chances to advance education to develop its leadership. Racism was the main target of Du Bois' polemics, and he strongly protested against lynching, Jim Crow laws, and discrimination in education and in employment. His cause included people of color everywhere, particularly Africans and Asians in colonies. He was proponent of Pan-Africanism and helped organize several Pan-African Congress to fight for the independence of African colonies from Europe powers. Du Bois made several trips to Europe, Africa, and Asia after World War One. He survived he surveyed the experiences of America black soldiers in France and documented widespread prejudice and racism in the United States military. Du Bois was a Prolific author, his collection of essays, The Souls of Black Folk, is a seminal work in African American literature. In his 1935 magnum opus, Black Reconstruction in America, challenged the prevailing orthodoxy that blacks were responsible for the failures of the Reconstruction era. Borrowing a phrase from Frederick Douglass, he popularized the use of the term color line to represent the injustice of the separate but equal doctrine prevalent in African social and political life. He opens the souls of black folk with the central thesis of much of his life's work. The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. His 1940 autobiography, Dusk of Dawn, is regarded in part as one of the first scientific treatises in the field of American sociology, and he published two other life stories, all three containing essays of sociology, politics, and history. In the role of the editor of the NAACP's Journey, The Crisis, he published many influential pieces. Du Bois believed that capitalism was a primary cause of racism, and he generally sympathetic to socialist causes throughout his life. He was the ardent peace activist and advocate nuclear disarmament. The United States Civil Rights Act embodied many of the reforms for which Du Bois had campaigned his entire life was enacted a year after his death. His early life. William Edward Bogart Du Bois was born on February 23rd, 1868, in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, to Alfred and Mary Savannah Nee Burgott. Du Bois married Savannah. Burgott's family was part of the very small free black population of Great Barrington and had long owned land in the state. She was descended of Dutch, African, and English ancestors. William Du Bois' maternal great great grandfather was Tom Bordeaux, a slave born in West Africa around 1730, who was held by the Dutch colonist Conrad Bordeaux. Tom briefly served in the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War, which may have been how he gained his freedom during the late 18th century. His son Jack Burgoyne was the father of Attilo Burgoyne, who is in turn was the father of Mary Savannah Burgoyne. William Du Bois claimed Elizabeth Freeman as his relative. He wrote that she had married his great grandfather Jack Burgoyne, but Freeman was 20 years old than Burgoyne, and no record of such marriage has been found. It may have been Freeman's daughter Betsy Humphrey who married Burgoyne. After her first husband, Jonah Humphrey, left the area around 1811, and after Burgoyne's first wife died in 1810. If so, Freeman would have been William Du Bois' step great grandfather. Great great grandmother. Anecdotal evidence suggests Humphreys marrying Burgoyne. A close relationship of some form is likely. William Du Bois' paternal great grandfather was James Du Bois of Poughkeepsie, New York, an ethnic French American of Huguenot origin who fathered several children with slave women. One of James' mixed race sons was Alexander, who was born on Long Cay in the Bahamas in 1803 and 1810. He immigrated to the United States with his father. Alexander Du Bois traveled and worked in Haiti, where he fathered a son, Alfred, with a mistress. Alexander returned to Connecticut, leaving Alfred in Hades with his mother. Sometimes before 1860, Alfred Du Bois immigrated to the United States, settling in Massachusetts. He married Mary Savannah Burgoyne on February 5th, 1867, in Houstonic, a village in Great Barrington. Alfred left Mary in 1870, 2 years after their son William was born. Mary Du Bois moved with her son back to her parents' house in Great Barrington, and they lived there until he was 5. She worked to support her family, receiving some assistance from her brother and neighbors until she suffered a stroke in the early 1880s. 80s. She died in 1885. Great Barrington had a majority European American community who generally treated the boys well. He attended the local integrated public school and played with white schoolmates. As an adult, he wrote about racism that he felt as a fatherless child and being in the minority in the town, but being a child and being a minority in the town, but teachers recognized his ability and encouraged his intellectual pursuits and his rewarding experience with academic studies led him to believe that he could use his knowledge to empower African Americans. He graduated from the town's Shirley's High School. When he decided to attend school, the congregation of his childhood church in the First Congregational Church of Great Barrington raised the money for his tuition. Relying on the money donated by neighbors, Du Bois attended Fisk University, a historically black college in Nashville, Tennessee, from 1885 to 1888. Like other Fisk students who relied on summer and itinerant teachings to support their university studies, Du Bois taught school during the summer of 1886. After his sophomore year, his travels to and residency in the South was Du Bois' first experience with Southern racism, which at the time encompassed Jim Crow laws, bigotry, suppression of black voting, and lynchings. The lattermost reached a peak in the next decade. After receiving a bachelor's degree from Fisk, he attended Harvard College, which did not accept course credits from Fisk from 1888 to 1890, where he was strongly influenced by Professor William James, prominent in American philosophy. Du Bois paid, yeah, Du Bois paid his way through 3 years of Harvard with money from summer jobs and inheritance, scholarships, and loans from friends in 1890. Harvard awarded Du Bois his second bachelor's degree cum laude in history in 1891. Du Bois received a scholarship to attend the Socially Graduate School at Harvard. Yeah, boy. In 1892, Du Bois received a fellowship from the John F. Slater Fund of doggone. Got a little person on drink. Education of Friedman to attend the University of Berlin for graduate work. While a student in Berlin, he traveled extensively throughout Europe. He came of age intellectually in the German capital while studying with some of the nation's most prominent social scientists, including Gustav von Scholar, Adolf Wagner, and Heinrich von Tresky. He also met Max Weber, who was highly impressed with Du Bois, and would later cite Du Bois as a counter-example to racism, alleging the inferiority of blacks. Weber would again meet Du Bois in 1904 on a visit to the U.S. just ahead of the publication of the seminal The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. He wrote about this time in Germany. I found myself on the outside of the American world looking in. With me were white folk, students, acquaintances, teachers, who viewed the science with me. They did not always pause to regard me as a curiosity or something subhuman. I was the man of the somewhat privileged student rank with whom they were glad to meet and talk over the world, particularly the part of the world whence I came. After returning from Europe, Du Bois completed his graduate studies in 1895. He was the first African American to earn a PhD from Harvard University. Wilberforce in Philadelphia. Between me and the other world, there is ever an unasked question. How does it feel to be a problem? One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring idols in one dark body whose Dodge strength, oh yeah, alone keeps it from being torn asunder. He would not Africanize America, for America was too much to teach the world. In Africa, he would not bleach his Negro soul in a flood of white Americanism, for he knows that Negro blood has a message for the world. He simply wishes to make it possible for a man to be both a Negro and an American, without being cursed and spit upon by his fellows, without having the doors of opportunity closed roughly in his face. The boy striving of the Negro people, 1897. So that must have been a note he wrote. In the summer of 1894, Du Bois received several job offers, including from the prestigious Tuskegee Institute. There we go. He accepted a teaching job at Wilberforce University in Ohio. At Wilberforce, Du Bois was strongly influenced by Alexander Crummell, who believed the ideals and morals are necessary tools to affect social change. While at Wilberforce, Du Bois married Nina Gama, one of his students, on May 12, 1896. After 2 years in Wilberforce, Du Bois accepted a one-year research job from the University of Pennsylvania as an assistant in sociology. In the summer of 1896, he performed sociology field research in the Philadelphia's African American neighborhoods, which formed the foundation for his landmark study, The Philadelphia Negro, published in 1899. While he was teaching at Atlanta University, it was the first case study of black community. It was the first case study of a black community in the United States by the 1890s. Philadelphia's black neighborhoods had a negative reputation in terms of crime, poverty, and morality. Du Bois' book undermined the stereotypes with imperfectional evidence and shaped his approach to segregation and its negative impact on black lives and reputations. The results led him to realize that racial integration was the key to democratic equality in American cities. The mythology employed in the Philadelphia Negro, namely the description and the mapping of social characteristics until neighborhood areas, was a forerunner to the studies under the Chicago School of Sociology. While taking part at the American Negro Academy (ANA) in 1897, Du Bois presented a paper in which he rejected Frederick Douglass's plea for black Americans to integrate into white society. He wrote, "We are Negroes, members of a vast historic race, from the very dawn of creation has slept but half wakened in the dark forests of its African fatherland." In the August 1897 issue of Atlantic Monthly, Du Bois published "Striving of the Negro People," his first work aimed at the general public, in which he enlarged upon his thesis that African Americans should embrace their African heritage while contributing to American society. Atlanta University. I'm gonna cut half of these things short because there's some long stuff. So this one and a couple others I'm gonna cut short, but I'm still give you some good information. In July 1897, Du Bois left Philadelphia and took a professorship in history and economics at the historically black Atlanta University in Georgia. His first major academic work was his book, The Philadelphia Negro, 1899. A detailed and comprehensive sociological study of the African American people of Philadelphia based on his fieldwork in 1896 through 1897. This breakthrough in scholarship was the first scientific study of African Americans and major contribution to early scientific sociology in the U.S. Oh, snap, hold up. The NAACP era. In May 1909, Du Bois attended the National Negro Conference in New York. The meeting led to the creation of the National Negro Committee, chaired by Oswald Villard and dedicated to campaigning for civil rights, equal voting rights, and equal educational opportunities. The following spring in 1910, at the Second National Negro Conference, the attendees created the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. At Du Bois' suggestion, the word colored rather than black was used, including dark skinned people everywhere. Dozens of civil rights supporters, black and white, participated in the funding, but most executive officers were white, including Mary Overton, Charles Edward Russell, William English Walling, and its first president, Murford Story. His return to Atlanta. Du Bois did not have a good working relationship with Walter Francis White, president of the NAACP since 1931. That conflict, combined with the financial stresses of the Great Depression, participated the power struggle over the crisis. Du Bois, concerned that his position as editor would be eliminated, resigned his job at the crisis and accepted the academic position at Atlanta University in early 1933. The rift with the NAACP grew larger in 1934 when Du Bois reversed his stance on segregation, stating that separate but equal was an acceptable goal to African Americans. The NAACP leadership was stunned and asked Du Bois to retract his statement, but he refused, and the dispute led to Du Bois resigning resignation from the NAACP. Life after. Du Bois was a member of the three-person delegation from the NAACP that attended the 1945 conference in San Francisco, at which the United Nations was established. The NAACP delegation wanted the United Nations to endorse racial equality. Let's see, let me see. Mm. Oh, I'm gonna cut a couple of these little extra ones short too. Give you some good information. Just working with me right quick. Oh, let me stretch out a little bit. All right, now I got it. To bring an end to the colonial era, to push the United Nations in that direction, Du Bois drafted a proposal that pronounced the colonial system of government under democratic, socially dangerous, and a main cause of wars. The NAACP proposed received support from China, India, and the Soviet Union, but it was virtually ignored by the major powers and the NAACP proposals were not included in the final United Nations Charter. His personal life. Du Bois was organized and disciplined. His lifelong reign was to rise at 7:15, work until 5 o'clock, eat dinner and read a newspaper till 7 o'clock, then read, socialize until he was in the bed. Invariably before 10, he was a meticulous planner. meticulous planner, and frequently mapped out his schedules and goals on large pieces of graph paper. Many acquaintances found him to be distant and aloof, and he insisted on being addressed as Dr. Du Bois. Although he was not gregarious, he formed several close friendships with associates such as Charles Young, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and John Hope and Mary White Overton. All right, we're gonna end it with this honors and legacy. Du Bois and Mary White Overton was honored with a Medal in the Extra Mile, bust W.E. Du Bois at Clark University, the NAACP Award, Springwood Medal to Du Bois in 1920. In 1958, Du Bois was inducted into the Fisk University Chapter Phi Beta Kappa when he returned to campus to receive an honorary degree in 1959. Du Bois was awarded the International Lenin Peace Prize by the USSR. In 1969, W. Du Bois Institute for African American Research, now part of the Hutchinson Center for African American Research, was established at Harvard University. I don't know. Well, religion. Although Du Bois attended the New England Congregational Church as a child, he abandoned organized religion while Fisk College as an adult. Du Bois described himself as agnostic, agnostic, anesthetic, or a free thinker, but at least one biographer concluded Du Bois was virtually an atheist. However, another analysis of Du Bois' writing concluded that he had a religious voice, albeit radically different from the other African American religious voices of his era. Du Bois was credited with inaugurating 21st century spirituality, in which Ralph Ellison, Zora Neale Hurston, and James Baldwin also belong. And that's the story of W. Du Bois. How to give you a story of one of our free uh, black legends. Hope you appreciate it. I'm out.